And I broadcast. I mute myself. Bye-bye.
I don't have anyone yet, but they're gonna come in 1 minute. So you can see, if you click on participants, you can see on the side. Oh.
Yeah, I
Hi,
can
Walter. Welcome back. You're the
Hi, Walter.
Thanks for coming again. Hi.
Hi, Cassia. Thanks for joining.
Hi, everyone.
Lars. Hey, Lars.
So for those who are joining us for the first time, we're not going to be able to see your faces. It's just the way it's set up. But we can see your names, and obviously you can see us, and you can start. You can use the chat for any comments that you have. So we'll start maybe in a few minutes. I think we have a lot of people coming today, so in 1 or 2 minutes we'll get started. 5 people. Hi. Yeah, you're muted. Walter is asking. This is our 3rd webinar, so it's interesting. So let's wait a minute.
Yeah, let's hear if anyone's seen anything worthwhile recently, any movie or TV show, something that they recommend.
Hi, Stacy. Where's everybody coming from as well? The Whistlers.
The Whistlers.
I don't know that one.
If you can write where we can watch that, it'll be great. I started watching Hollywood on, I think it's Netflix. Yeah, on Netflix. It's really, really interesting. I love how they show a lot of different voices from that golden era of Hollywood in the 40s and 50s, but different voices that were not necessarily, mainstream or captured, or it's really, really interesting.
It's a Netflix production, right?
I think so. Yeah. A lot of big names. It's really fun and sexy and different and a little bit of everything.
Anyone else see anything else? Dead to Me. Oh yeah. That's also a Netflix production, right? I think. I've seen it looks interesting. Where's everybody? I'm also curious, where are you guys located? Are you in Europe? Are you in the US? In the UK? New York? We're both in New York right now. Long Island? Okay. Okay. Everyone is from, no one is from Europe?
Nice. Lars, what are you doing in Arizona? Did you move there, or just until the pandemic will come down, or?
Kathleen, Florida. Hi.
Oh, that's awesome. Cool. Congrats, Lars.
Yeah.
I actually never been to Arizona, I think, and I really, really want to go there.
Me too. Maybe we can go to your house.
All right, yeah. Really want to hike there.
Okay, should we get started? Are you guys ready?
Yeah,
people are gonna come little by little. So welcome everyone. Thank you for coming today. If you've joined us before, thank you for coming again. So I was really excited today for our webinar because we're going to be chatting with Dani, who's one of my closest collaborators. So this one feels special to me. So Dani and I worked on many projects together. We have a long history. We go way back. And he's somebody that I trust a lot. So I was really keen and excited to share his point of view with you guys today. So for those who are coming for the first time, so this is what we're doing is part of a conversation / webinar series from SetPatrol. SetPatrol is an online platform that allows filmmakers to buy and rent gear from each other located in Europe. And we also have a community building section with free resources like call sheets in every possible language, like everything that you need to make a movie, basically, job listings, crew profiles, tutorials, webinars, all kinds of different things. And tomorrow we're launching the beta version. So you can follow us on social media, SetPatrol, and all across the board, and then check out the website in the next few days and start making a profile and then enjoying the free resources that we have right now. So Dani, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background? And I'm interested in, because this is a conversation about directing your first feature film, how you came to be a director as well. What was your journey behind that?
Okay, hi everyone. Thanks for joining us today. And thanks to Louise and SetPatrol for having me here. I'm a filmmaker. I live in New York right now. I moved here about 10 years ago from Israel, where I attended the film school over there. And my journey to directing, I think, started with just wanting to tell stories with images. My parents bought me a camera when I was in high school. I still have that camera, the film camera. And I just started taking pictures and later videos and just trying to be familiar with that format, with that medium, exploring it, trying to understand what I can and cannot do with it. And then a few years later, I attended a screenwriting class in a film school. It was some sort of like an after school program that they did, like a night classes. And I took a couple of classes, mostly in writing, but also one in editing. And then that's where I really transformed from pictures and just doing something on an amateur level to really wanting to do it full time. The love for it was always there for films and photography, but it's only when I was, I think, 21, 22, after I finished my military service, I really knew that this is what I really wanted to do. So 10 years ago, I moved here from Israel a week after I graduated, and I've been here since then, making movies. And beside, one more thing that I want to add is that beside doing movies, I'm also involved in with an organization that's called the Patton Veteran Initiative, and we do film workshops for soldiers with PTS. Mostly Americans, but we did a workshop in Israel too, and all across the U.S. And I really love it because it's a great way to use filmmaking as a therapeutic tool. And yeah, that's it.
That's great. So something, I guess one of the common goals that a lot of filmmakers have, specifically for directors, is to direct their first feature film. You've achieved this milestone. Can you tell us about those projects and what they are and how we can find them and what they're at? What is the outcome of them right now? Like, can we watch them? Are they in post-production? All those different things.
Yeah, so I've directed 2 feature films. The first one is Landing Up. We shot this in 2015. And this is my second feature, A Near Christmas. We filmed that in 2018. and both of them right now are out on all the major digital platforms. You can see them anywhere you are, on Amazon, on Google, iTunes, YouTube Movies. If you're in the US, all the major VOD platforms. Yeah.
Those two films were, I guess, a little bit different in terms of like process, because the first one was your passion project, your baby, and the second one was you were hired as a director, right? So it's two different methods and approaches. For the first one, because I'm sure we have, and you can write in the chat, guys, but I'm sure there's a lot of you who are writing scripts right now and in the prospect of shooting their first feature film and self-producing. For Landing Up, can you like kind of, I guess I'm interested in the writing process and how you managed to gather your early on like key collaborators, whether it was co-writers, co-directors, producers, actors, your key cast. How did it come about?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's a really interesting story. So me and my wife, partner, Stacy, that's I think she's here in participating. We wrote a short film in 2014. We wrote and shot a short film called The Next Two Nights, and this was really like a huge project and a huge collaboration. For us, it was a big production, relatively to what we were doing those days. And we decided to not release the film. We were not super happy with how it came out. We learned, this was a real school for us. We learned a lot during that production, those couple days, and we decided that we're not happy enough with what came out of it, and we want to try to do something else with it. And so we were depressed for a couple of days. We were really upset, and bummed, because we spent a lot of time and money into this, and it didn't come out the way that we wanted. And so after 2 or 3 days of depression, we just decided to put it aside. Just to, we just told ourselves, like, this is the life of a filmmaker. There's so many ups and downs. There's so much disappointment and things that don't go according to the plan. And you just have to decide that will not stop you, And so we shook it out. We looked at the script. We made some rewrites. We turned it into a feature. And when I say we, I mostly mean Stacy, but she wrote it. And sorry. So we wrote a script that we're happy with, and then we looked at our resources. We looked at everything that we learned from making The Next Two Nights, and we said, okay, this is what we can do with all the resources that we have, meaning all the money, all the time, and all the people that we know, and we know that this is what we can do. So a lot of the screenwriting had to do with production in mind, and thinking to yourself, okay, we know what we can do and we know what we cannot do. And so we gathered all those resources and we went out to this production. And it was a wild ride. And so, when you talk about gathering our key collaborators, we at first reached out to a lot of people that we wanted to work with, and quickly learned that we cannot work with them because we just can't pay them. We just can't pay them what they want, and so we went to people that were deputies or work as assistants on different departments, and told them to come and be chiefs in our movie. So, someone who was the second AC or something like that came on our project and became the first AC. People that were the wardrobe or assistant art in other departments came up to be the department heads. So basically, we use credit as credit. You know, we use film credit as an incentive for people to come to work on our project, because eventually when when you reach out to for them, when you reach out to someone and try to get hired on a project, they ask for your credentials and ask to see what you've done before that. And I think our gaffer was like 23 or something like that, and for someone like him to say that he was the gaffer on a feature film, it's a big deal for them. It's a big step for them. That's how they can help us and we can help them. So we got lucky, and we got a lot of great people on board, and we went out to film it.
Mm-hmm. And something that I remember, you told me once, because the subject is very specific and you had to do a lot of research, and it has various social justice themes as well. You went out to make sure that you were finding those collaborators who could help you get that perspective on the story as well.
Yes, correct. A big subject of the film was homelessness. And so besides going and volunteering in shelters, spending nights, doing that kind of research, I think almost every person on set, maybe not every person, but a lot of people, including actors, had some history and connection with that subject. Almost everyone knew someone or had some sort of an experience, similar experience, or something like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. So you were mentioning all the work that you did in pre-production. I know that people often say the film is as good as the pre-production work that you've put in, and there's a lot of things that you can. It's difficult to avoid, right? That you only learn like through experience, like making mistakes in pre-production and what are the consequences of those mistakes when you're filming. For somebody who's directing their first feature film, low budget, ultra budget, passion project, because you have to wear so many hats, what was your experience being a director on top of being, everything else that you were being on set? And how did you manage to kind of like shuffle everything and channel into like, so you could still show up to set and be a director and be present with that when you're wearing so many hats, specifically during pre-production? How do you keep your focus?
Well, first of all, I think it starts with bringing in people that you trust. And so, me and Stacy, we split the work between us. She produced the film. She did all the producing parts, all the organization. I did all the technical parts, and that's how we kind of like kept the balance between us. When you're on set, you really have to be smart with how you pick your battles, because there's always someone asking you something. So you really have to be focused on set and understand how to spread your attention so it won't be too thin, and keep the focus on what's important. So as soon as we start rolling, we had two other producers that I trust them. I just told them, you deal with this, don't talk to me. Definitely don't talk to Stacy, who also star in the movie as the lead, and I don't want her, the film, there's a lot of emotional parts and she's carrying the film, so I didn't want, between takes, the producers to go to her and tell her, look, we're, something happened, we need your, we need to spend $1,000 or something like that. I told the other producers, if there's something you need, come to me, don't talk to Stacy at all. And try not to talk to me unless it's super important. I trust you. In the beginning, right before, and if you search the behind the scene video that we made, you can see that I told everyone just before we shot the first shot of the film, I told everyone that, and that's something I tell everyone on set each time, you are the answer. Don't look for someone who has the answers. You have the answers. You're the person that Sorry, my light just died here. You have, you're here because we trust you. Go ahead, do it. And so it's really going back to the beginning. It really starts with finding the right collaborators.
Yeah.
Beside that, you really have to understand. You have to come to this knowing that you're gonna do all the work all the time. And nobody, if someone will help you, it's great, it's a bonus, but don't really expect that too much. We started the day every morning with me driving the truck, an hour before everyone else, getting to set with Stacy, setting up breakfast, coffee, all those things, and then focusing, and then being the director. So I woke up as the driver and became the director only a couple of hours later. So you really need to be able to do all those things, and without complaining that nobody is helping you, because it's you just need to do it. You just need to get through this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think it's a really great point, because I see on set with directors who are kind of starting out and finding their boundaries and everything, that they want to have the answer to everything, and department heads are always asking them, what do you think of this dress, what do you think of this, and so much of that work can be done in pre-production when you have really detailed and successful meetings, and so all these little details don't come out, or come out less, I guess, once you're on set. And like you were saying, it's very important to let people do their own thing and say, I'm not dealing with this detail. We agreed on the color scheme or whatever, and then you deal with it yourself, if that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, a lot of the questions, hair and makeup, wardrobe, come and talk to me about something, and I always tell them, like, what, remember the theme of the movie, remember what we talked about in pre-production, make decisions that, or come with me after. If you can't make that decision, come to me and we'll make it together, or I'll make it. But just remember those things,
Mm-hmm.
And one more thing that's really important, that was, I think, one of the biggest lessons that we learned, is that you're always paying for something that you want. You're always paying something, meaning, we brought in an AC, and he was amazing. He was really, really great guy. I'm still in touch with him. He shot something as a DP for me many times since we wrapped. But there were a few shots that were very complicated to achieve, and on set, when the DP, I think we had two DPs. One of them wanted to bring his own person, but we couldn't pay them, and we ended up paying this AC, and bringing them on set. And so in pre-production, you think to yourself, oh great, I just saved $300 a day for the AC because I found someone who can come for less money, right? But the thing that you need to understand about that is that you're paying for it. Even if you're not paying for it with money, you're paying for it with something else. The currency always changes. So when we got to set and those complicated shots came, the AC couldn't pull the focus on that. It was honestly, it was a complicated shot. It was I think 80 long lens, so it's really difficult to pull the focus. And at some point, you're out of time. You can't do the shot over and over, so you have to break it down and make it something more simple. That's obviously a compromise. That's not something that I imagined, and I was really excited about that shot. But at the end of the day, you have time. You either get the shot or you don't. And so this is an example of how I paid for instead of money for an AC, I paid with compromise. I just compromised on how I wanted the scene to look. So and this goes really on everything. Every time you think you're saving money or something, make sure you're not going to pay for it in a different way later down the line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And sometimes, I mean, like you were saying, you learned it the hard way, and
Yeah.
I think we also have to accept that filmmaking is troubleshooting every day, and then you're going to have to learn some lessons, and you're not always going to be happy, even though you're completely prepared. Like, you cannot prepare for everything, if that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what's it's important. One of the things that I do when I direct, I keep a notebook and write in one line, what is this scene about? Okay, what is the essence of the scene? And every time, especially, and it's great on set, because on set, again, you have so many people coming to you at the same time. You're against time, against money, against everything, and it's very hard to focus, right? So every time that something like that comes up, I ask myself, okay, what is this scene about? You know, what is the real essence of it? And that really helps you stay focused when you're on set.
Yeah. Specifically when actors are also dealing with their own things. Like, I've seen you work on set a lot, and one thing that I appreciate, whether I was acting in the project or I wasn't, or I was in another department, you always make sure that actors are comfortable, even though there's a lot of technical nightmare going around, and maybe like we're running late and everything. Like, you always make sure, exactly, like connecting what is important in the scene is to have real storytelling, and having the actors like be emotionally connected. And that's something that I also see up and coming directors not do, and kind of get spread thin throughout all the different departments trying to troubleshoot things, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think that it's it makes sense.
Mm-hmm. So something that I was curious to talk about as well was the process of being a director on a feature film, which you also had with The New Christmas, but being a hired director, because that was a completely, I mean, you didn't, you're working on the script and you gave feedback to the script, but you didn't write the script. So how is that process different? And for those of you who are interested in being for hired directors, what are the things that you want to, I guess, that you want to take away from that? And so feel free to write in the chat as well. But how was that? How did you get involved in the project? How did you get hired? How was it different directing for a client, basically, than directing your own baby?
It's a huge difference. Let me talk about a couple of points. First of all, you really have to make sure that in terms of contract, you get everything that you want, meaning a final say in the script.
Mm-hmm.
Not the only say, but a final say, some sort of a say. So you'll have you'll have real effect and real power to tell the story that you also want to tell. Same goes with editing. Make sure that you can approve or disapprove cuts. Make sure that you. For me, it was a big deal to bring my crew, the people that I knew, because they brought me in 5 weeks before production started. They had a different director in mind, and that director didn't get a visa to the U.S., so they had to find someone, and I'll talk a little bit about it later. But it's so 5 weeks before the project starts, I don't have time to learn and get to know new people. I need to work with my people that know that talking on using the same language, people who know what I like and how I like to do things, how I like to run the set, and everything from style to artistic choices. I just wanted my crew, and that was really important for me, and obviously it happened. I think another big difference between the two features is that you're not calling all the shots. On Landing Up, what me and Stacy said, it was done because we said it, we asked for it, and on A New Christmas, there are other producers and people who brought a lot of money. So if I want to do something, I'm used to just like saying it and or consulting with other people or something like that. And here a few times happened where I wanted to do something, and then producers came like, oh wait, actually we were thinking about this or that, and you know, it forced me to be more of a collaborator actually. And so it was, you know, it was a completely, and there was also a lot of pressure, a lot of different kind of pressure as a director. You know, there are more eyes watching you, and there are more things that are at stake here. And I think that the overall experience was much more, much more difficult in the sense that it required much more out of me. It was an incredible experience for me. I really enjoyed it, and it was interesting because, you know, eventually I think most directors want to get to a point where they are hired to direct other projects, and so you have to be much more of a diplomat, you know, and a politician, not just an artist when you approach something like that.
Mm-hmm. What was the process of getting hired? How did you come on board? I'm asking because it's a little bit abstract for some directors. They're like, well, how do I get hired as a director on a feature film? Obviously, you want to have, probably they're going to ask for other samples of, you know, your work, and you want to have done another feature film, but not always, right? So how was it? What was it like for you?
So let me tell you how I got into this project. So we shot the film in December 2018, and I think something like 6 months before that, or earlier in, I think it was 2018, a friend of mine talked to me and asked me to direct a music video for his friend. And okay, we said, okay, sure, let's do it. He didn't have any budget in mind, but I just really wanted to help him. And eventually, and he produced the whole thing, and that was the first time that he produced anything. And so the day before we started filming, sorry, I think 3 days before we started filming, he called me and he's like, hey, I actually see that it's gonna snow when we want to film, so can we push it 1 day back? So instead of filming it in 3 days, let's film it in 2 days. I'm like, I'm fine, I'm cool with it, I'm available, but you know, did you check with everyone? Did you see that everyone is available? And he said, yeah, it's fine. A few hours later, he called me and he's like, okay, everyone is ready. We're filming in 2 days. The only people that couldn't come are the actors. And so I found 2 other actors. They're gonna be great. I'm like, okay, sure, that's fine. I mean, it's your project. You know, at that time I was out of the country for a couple of weeks working, and I told him that I'm not gonna be here the days leading to the production, and all of it will pretty much fall on him. Make a long story short, at the end of the first day, we were scheduled to film 2 days. The end of the first day, we realized that we don't have anything. The actors were not actors; they were musicians, actually. And so everything, you know, we got a few shots, but like the main story, everything we worked on pretty much crashed. And at the end of the first day, I took my friend aside and I told him, look, we have great team here, we have great equipment here, and we know a lot of great actors in this town, right? So let's scratch everything we did today. Let's start making a couple of phone calls, try to see who we can bring in, and let's spend the next couple of hours coming up with a story that we can tell and film in a day, and do it, you know, because, you know, and at that point, my friend saw and understood that we have nothing, that everything that we shot that day was terrible. So second day started. We spent, we talked into the night, writing a new script, casting 2 new actors, and creating this whole new thing. And we showed up a few hours later to the second filming day, and it was awesome. It was really great. I mean, it was very, very difficult, but it turned out really, really great. And during this whole process, there was someone there, one of the like a friend of my friend, and she saw this whole process. She saw this whole thing, and at the end we had a little conversation, and she came at that point. I didn't put too much significance into that. But she came to me at the end of those couple of days and told me that she was really impressed, because she saw that this started as a shit show, but we fought to make something out of it. And and she saw this and recognized it and told me about it, and I thanked her and all that. Jumping 9 months after that, I get a phone call from her, and she's like, and she tells me, look, I'm involved in this feature film, and we just lost our director, who did not get a visa to the US. And so the team, most of the team was in India or LA. They asked me if I know someone, and I thought of you and that experience in that project that we've done, and that's how I got involved, and so from something that I did as a favor to a friend, something that there was no money involved, no, a lot of struggles, just by being on set and doing the best that I could, led me into this position, and that's why I try to tell everyone, all the new filmmakers and everyone who's trying to make it, or talk to a lot of Israelis who move to New York and try to get into the business. Just be on set, be the best person that you can be professional, always think ahead, always try to understand what someone might need, and try to be vigilant and alert, and do your best, and you'll move forward, because we as filmmakers, we want people like that on our set. We don't want people who are always on their phone, sitting on the corner. If nobody's calling them, they're just like sitting aside waiting to be called. So that this whole experience was really a great lesson in always do your best.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's a great point. I mean, I love that story. That's why I asked, and I think we can see that you never know what's going to happen, right? Like, I think a lot of people are under the impression that they have to do their short film, and then they have to get funding for their passion project, and then they can get hired as a director. But you never know. Like, this came from a music video, right? So it didn't come from, it came from something that was completely random, and that you were not even you were not planning for it to be good even. So you never know. So I think, like you were saying, like you never know if something is going to turn out to be great, and what kind of collaborations you're going to be able to get out of it. Which is a good point for my next question. So I know some of us are not coming from film, or maybe coming from other departments. So for somebody who's coming from theater, who's a theater director, or somebody who's maybe a producer or an actor, and they want to start doing their own passion projects, and they want to start directing, what would be your tips and advice to make it to become a film director and eventually direct your first feature film?
My advice would be just do it. Just do it. Because when you learn to play the cello, you don't learn to play the cello and then you play the cello. You learn by playing the cello, by practicing, and sounding horrible for a couple of years until you're great, until you do something that is rewarding. But the problem with directing is that it's very, very resource consuming. And so, if you're a writer, sit down and write. All you need is a pen and paper, and that's it. You can write on your phone, on your computer, anywhere you are in the world, you can write. If you want to be a cinematographer, same thing. Take your phone, take a simple camera, go out and practice and do it. But for directors, it's really different because you can't just, and we'll get to that later. You can't just practice it. You have to spend a lot of time and a lot of money and bring in a lot of people. You can't really do it yourself. And so when you get to a point where you're able to put a production and the script and people and talents and camera and equipment and this and that, by the time you do it, you spend a lot of money and a lot of time. And if this is your first project, it might not turn out to be the same way that you thought it would be, And so a lot of people are being discouraged by that. But just like I said, it's like holding the cello for the first time. You're just not going to be good at it. You need to learn it. You need to see it. You need to understand where to put your hands. And so my advice is to not be discouraged, to understand that this is a very, very long process. And I learn things all the time and every single day. And, after directing Landing Up, I thought to myself, wow, I learned so much on set, but I also know now after directing it for 16, 17 days, I know that it's a muscle. And, I felt so much more comfortable at the end of those 17 days as I did in the first couple of days, right? And it makes sense. And so what I did to keep that muscle warm and to keep practicing, I opened up a group that's called the Sandbox, and it's practically a gym for directors. The structure is really simple. It's a group of 20 directors. Each week we bring 2 actors, a 2-page script, and 4 directors get 30 minutes to work with the actors, direct them. And that's it. At the end of the meeting, everyone gets feedback for their process, for what they've done, and we continue. And I've been doing it for 4 years now. Now we kind of changed the structure because of the COVID-19, and we're doing it online. But still, the point is that I did it for 3 years before or 2.5 years before directing my second feature. And it was insane. I mean, the difference was really crazy. And it makes sense because, athletes, musicians, a lot of artists, they practice on a daily basis. Can you imagine an NBA game where the players, only practice like once a month? No, they practice 8 hours each day. So why are we as artists are different? Mm-hmm. We're not different. We need to practice. And so if in the first feature, I remember taking the actors to the side because there were, at some point there were 20, 30 eyes on me, and I'm like, whoa, that's a lot of pressure. I don't feel comfortable. I don't know if I have the self-esteem to direct actors. And we had a couple of big names, people that were in many movies for years. Who am I, a first-time feature director, talking to this guy or to this girl about what they need to do when all those eyes are on me. I felt like a lot of pressure. And on second feature, I felt much more comfortable because I've been practicing for years, and that was really a big thing for me. So anyone out there who wants to make the move and become a director, just do it. Just do it and own it and say, I'm a director now and I'm doing it. And yeah, maybe my first project or my first 5 projects did not came out the way that I wanted, but it's a process and I learned a lot from them. Mm-hmm. And for me, every film is another step. It's another, going up, and I always try to learn and make it better. And that's it. You really don't have to be afraid in making that step.
Exactly. And you never know how this is, like, how lessons are going to manifest as well, right? Like, some people, they want to go to film school They might be coming from a different background and they think it's useful for them to acquire those resources and network. And some people, they don't have the financial resources, and that's also okay, or that's not how they want to work in a school context. And so you can get experience in a lot of different ways. Like when you were saying get on set, like you can, it's up to you and your skills and what you want to do, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. There's nothing in film school that cannot be taught on a YouTube video. They really, in at least in my experience and a lot of friends that I talk to, their experience is that film school don't get you ready for the real world.
Mm-hmm.
They teach you how to make a movie in a very sterile environment, with not a lot of pressure and a lot of support around you. But you can definitely learn that online, or even better on set. Just come on set as a production assistant, as a PA, and learn if you know, or even just like just find a few directors that you know, or people that live around you. Send them a message on Facebook, on Instagram. Hey, how's it going? Can I shadow you? Can I just follow you? Can I just come for a day and follow you and see what you do? I think if you send that email, that message to 10 to 20 people, you'll get at least one person that will allow you to do it, and you can learn a lot. The set is the best school to what to do and what not to do on set.
Yeah, absolutely. We're gonna open up the Q&A soon if you want to start writing your questions in the chat. I have one final question for you. Now that you've achieved those two important milestones, what are your next dreams or objectives as a director?
So I'm working on more projects. I'm writing a couple of projects now, and I'm trying to be involved with more projects, and as a director, and that's something that's very difficult for me, and I'm trying to be better at. A big part is just, especially if you want to be hired, I think that half the battle is just reminding people that you're alive, that you're alive, that you're still in the business, that you're still doing that. And so that really means going to events and socializing and networking and doing all those things that I really don't like to do. That's a reality. You have to do it. So I hope to, I already have a project, a VR project that I want to film this summer. It can be shot in a social distancing, it can be shot while practicing social distancing. And it's a VR project. It's also related to the virus in a certain way. And yeah, just want to tell more stories.
Yeah, that makes sense. So we have a couple of questions. What does your creative idea brainstorming process look like?
Wait, I think there was an earlier question.
Oh, I missed it, sorry. How true to life do you find good versus fast versus cheap, those two model?
Yeah. So yeah, it's a good question. So there's this triangle that basically you can always get only 2 out of the 3. So there's good, fast, and cheap, right? So if you want something to be good and fast, it's not going to be cheap, right? Or if you want something that is good and cheap, it's just not going to be fast. It's completely true. I think it connects to what I said before, that you always pay with something, so this is exactly another way of saying it. You're always paying with something. You're either paying with the quality of the product that you're doing, or the speed, or money, or actual money. So that model is completely 100% true.
Yeah, and it's something that you should keep in mind in pre-production, like you were saying a lot, specifically when you're orchestrating the different departments, right? And they'll have like different demands. Another question from Walter: how soon should a director be brought into fold?
I think the sooner the better, the earlier the better, because you the more involved you are in the project, the more you feel like it's yours, and that's also, I forgot to talk about it earlier, as one of the biggest things that I learned from making my first feature. The earlier you bring people to set, the more they feel like it's theirs, and the more committed they are, and the more excited they are to work on this, and the more chances there are that they will bring everything they have to the table, and you want that.
Yeah.
So I was bought for my second feature. I was bought 5 weeks before we start shooting, and the first week, um, who am I lying to? The entire time, those whole 5 weeks were a lot, there was a lot of anxiety, and you always keep asking yourself, where should I focus my attention? There's so many things to take care of. How do you decide how to spend your time, and what battles do you want to fight? And so obviously the earlier you come to the project, the better. And I think that a project eventually will be better if you're brought in earlier rather than later.
Yeah. Another question: what does your creative idea brainstorming process look like?
That's a good question. I keep a little note on my phone where I write ideas, and I probably have hundreds of different ideas there. I just try to keep my mind open all the time, and every time that something comes, I'm writing it down. It can be an image. A lot of the short films that I directed started from an image that I had in my mind. So not necessarily an idea. Um, Another great way to brainstorm is, okay. So let's say every other week I go over that list, and I try to see if an idea that I wrote a couple of weeks ago is still interesting. And if it is, I open up a Google Doc. I recently combined, because I have two computers here. So I had projects spread around two computers, some on Dropbox, some on Google Drive. It was really messy. I just organized everything in one place now. And so every time I want to keep exploring an idea, I just start writing it down on paper, meaning on the computer. And the first thing I do is just like, I write everything that comes to mind, like how do you call it? Like a silent writing kind of a thing, where like for 10 minutes, I
Stream
just
of
write.
consciousness. Stream of consciousness.
Exactly. The stream of consciousness, everything that comes to mind, I don't judge. I don't think about it twice. If it comes to my mind, I put it down on paper. I'm writing it down, and I keep exploring it. And then I try to write some sort of an director statement. What do I want to say here? What is the point? What story am I trying to say? And through that, try to understand, what is this project about? What is this story film about? And then I ask myself, and I take a couple of days to think about it. Is this really something I want to spend the next 2 years doing? Is this really a story that I want to spend 2 years of my life, resources, time, focus, energy, talking to friends, sending drafts? Do I really want to do that? And it takes me a couple of days to understand, because, and by the way, most of the time the answer is no. And I have a lot of projects that I start writing that I spend weeks working on, but eventually I'm like, do I really want to do that? Because it's not only about whether you feel the urge to tell that story. There's a lot of other elements that you have to think about. You have to think about the market, right? Because making a drama independent film is the hardest thing. And part of why it's the hardest thing to do is because you're fighting with dramas that had millions of dollars in budget. You know, that's why I think in at least in short films, you know, or no, actually even in features, I think genres that are a little bit easier to make are horror, thrillers, stuff like that, where there's a very dedicated audience to and festivals and communities around the world that really love those kind of things, and they don't get what they want from the big studios.
Yeah.
You know, so there's a lot of different elements that comes into understanding whether or not you want to do this project for the next couple of years.
Someone is asking, that's a good question, the market of thinking of how you can market your film when you're writing your film, right? Lars is asking, did you and Stacy have any distribution plans for Landing Up before production started?
That's a great question. We did not have any distribution plans for Landing Up. We really, until we got to that part, we didn't really know what it meant and how you do that. But more than that, the world completely changed by the time we thought about the idea and when we had the product in our hands. I mean, it was still a fast timeline. We're talking about less than a year and a half from wanting to film this to having the film in our hands. And just before we started filming, we talked to a few filmmakers who sold their film to Netflix directly. They got upfront, they got $5,000-$10,000. And when we were done, none of that existed. Netflix stopped doing that. The market was oversaturated with content. And we ended up, I mean, I think we got a good deal. We went with Random Media that's collaborating with the Orchid, and they're a great company, and they were really terrific. But I can tell you now, Stacy's now finishing her feature film called Triple Threat, that I was one of the DPs for. And we, pre-corona, let's say pre-corona, our idea was to try to distribute it ourselves because you just get more control over it. It's not only about the profits; it's also about control of how to market it, how and where to put it. We had a dream about getting an RV with a small team and just going around the country and showing it in community centers and local theaters and trying to create a collaboration in every city we stop in. We heard about this kind of distribution when we were in a film festival in LA, and we really liked it. I mean, I think the biggest plus in doing something like that is that at the end of the day, you end up with a community of people that follow you, that are waiting for your next content, for your next piece, you know, and you make those connections, and that's everything. I mean, how cool is it that you know the director and you know the lead actress and you know the people behind the movie, and so maybe one day we'll do it, but probably not for this film.
Makes sense. Somebody has a great question about that kind of debate, I guess. After completing your first feature, if you can talk about the doors it opened in regards to agents, production companies, financial opportunities, and how was your experience to get the film in front of the audience? So I guess also the festival circuit and all of that. If you can talk a little bit about what you gained from that.
We knew that making Landing Up, that we probably won't be able to retrieve all the money back. And we were okay with it. We took a loan. We used a lot of our money. We got a couple of investors, but most of the money was ours, either savings or a loan that we took. And it opens up all the doors. It's, you know, we found out that you can't really, I won't say you can't, but it's extremely difficult to contact producers or production companies or studios before having a feature film under your belt, because for them it's just a risk managing equation. It's one thing to direct a short film and be on set for 3 or 4 days, and it's a completely different thing to direct a feature film, be weeks on set, being tired, being exhausted, being like so crazy for a few weeks. And so making Landing Up, just knowing, just telling people that you directed a feature film, open up a lot of doors for you. And it's really the way to go about, I think, in this industry, to do something like that. And so it definitely opens the door. I definitely don't think that I'll be able to. I don't think I would direct a second feature. I wouldn't get hired unless I directed the first one.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that the team would be interested in directors who did not do, feature films. And so it definitely opens up a lot of doors for you.
Mm-hmm.
And that enough is a reason to go out there and do it.
Yeah, and nothing is done in vain, like you were saying. Like, you had a couple of experiences where you felt like when you did the first short film of Landing Up, you felt like that was wasted, but it wasn't wasted at all. Like, everything that you do leads you somewhere anyway, like you were saying.
You learn, yes. You really must be able to learn from every experience that you have.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Let's take one last question. What tips do you have for filmmakers to do during the pandemic to make the best of your time or time?
It's the same advice for everyone else, the pandemic or not. Just create, do something, practice. Go out there, tell a story, tell a cool story, tell something.
But don't go outside. Stay home. Make your film from home.
Well, you can. No, if you
Yeah.
the next couple of weeks, a lot of places will reopen, and even if you're alone, even if you're home, me and Stacey are now working on a film that will take place entirely in our apartment with two of us. Both of us will act in it somehow. Good luck to me. It's just, the thing is that you really, I think that the real question, or the real lesson behind this question, is that you really always have to be in mindset of creating something, of doing something. You can't be passive. You just can't, and you really have to use this opportunity, this pandemic, as a time to do something, because nobody is filming anything.
Mm-hmm.
Content is king right now. There's just nothing new happening out there. I heard of a few screenwriters that were hired because people in Hollywood are home. Send out an email, reach out to actors, to directors, to people, show them stuff, ask to talk to them. Use this. How just think, how can I use this defect to make it an effect?
Yeah, and now is a good time to do a reading of your project as well, if you have one. Focus on the writing and all of that. Great. Yeah. Any last words for today?
Just stay healthy. Just stay healthy and positive, and meditate. That's something that I started doing in the past couple of weeks, and it's really helping a lot. It's like 10-15 minutes a day. It's incredible. It's really incredible. I should have done that years ago.
It's true. Yeah, I'm bad at it, but
it's difficult. It's really, really difficult. Yeah. And everyone else out there, I'm gonna write my email if anyone has more questions or want to talk to me.
We will send a follow-up email as well with Dani's contact details, his production company as well, the links to watch his movies, And if you have any questions, you can write to Dani or you can write to us at via Facebook or Instagram at SetPatrol. We have another webinar coming up on Tuesday. Also good for those who are thinking of producing their passion project about budgeting for designers for your feature film or your short film or your TV pilot or whatever it is. So that might be really useful as well for you guys. And then we have a whole bunch of other talks about becoming a DP or commercial DP. So a lot of different subjects. So you can just follow us on social media or the event, and we will keep updating the different webinars. But thank you for coming today. I hope that was helpful.
Thanks for having me. Thank you for coming, everyone.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you guys soon. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.